I'm Detective Jesus. I'm the one who's been investigating the crash. You're under arrest for aggravated murder ×2.
I am devastated by the loss of DaVon. The world lost a truly special man. My girls lost their best friend, their protector, the one and only trusted family that has been by their side from day one.
No one wanted this to be a murder or to punish Mackenzie Shirilla for this accident. But this was not a car accident. The evidence and science proved that Mackenzie Shirilla murdered my son, Dominic, as well as DaVon. I lost 3 children in that crash. Not a minute goes by each day that I don't think about my son, as well as DaVon. My heart is forever broken.
Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving.
Mackenzie Shirilla was just 17 years old at the time of the crash on July 31st, 2022. She sat in court, calm and composed, her eyes fixed straight ahead, radiating an air of quiet confidence. It was as if Mackenzie Shirilla, the teenage driver at the center of Ohio's most shocking double murder trial, believed she had everything under control, that she was about to walk free and leave the past buried behind her. In that moment, she looked certain she would beat the charges, certain the courtroom would believe her story. What she didn't realize was that the truth, caught on camera, etched in data, and replayed before the world, was about to shatter that illusion completely. As Judge Nancy Margaret Russo began reading, the air turned heavy.
Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving.
Guilty, she said. The word cut through the courtroom like a blade. Mackenzie's shoulders stiffened, her breathing quickened. Cameras zoomed in on her trembling hands clenching the defense table. It was in that instant, that one frozen second, that reality hit. The teen accused of killing her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, and friend DaVon Flanigan wasn't walking out free. The calm mask she wore throughout the trial started to crack, her face contorted as the judge's words continued. This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
Mackenzie blinked rapidly, a chilling mix of fear, regret, and disbelief. The once confident teen now looked small, fragile, and completely undone. Footage from that moment shows her wiping tears with shaking hands, mascara streaking down her cheeks. She mouthed the words, "I'm sorry," though no one could hear her voice. Behind her, Dominic's family sat frozen, watching the girl they had once welcomed into their home fall apart. For them, there was no comfort, only the heavy reminder that their sons weren't coming back. Every gasp, every sob from Mackenzie echoed like a haunting soundtrack of guilt inside the courtroom.
Count 5, felonious assault. The court, having had count 5 tried to it pursuant to waiver, finds the defendant, Mackenzie Shirilla, guilty of felonious assault, to wit, Dominic Russo, in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.11 of the Revised Code, is charged in count 5 of the indictment.
The judge's tone remained steady and deliberate. "Your decisions forever robbed Dominic and DaVon of their futures," she said. Mackenzie's breathing grew shallow. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, eyes darting around the courtroom as if searching for a way out. Life in prison. It was read aloud. She broke completely.
So she's sentenced on count 2, the murder of DaVon Flanigan, 15 years to life. She's sentenced on count 1, the murder of Dominic Russo, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other, with credit for time served.
Her cries grew louder, echoing through the courtroom microphones. She buried her face in her arms, shaking uncontrollably. Her lawyer placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, but she couldn't stop. The courtroom camera panned slowly, catching the tear-streaked faces of both families, grief and anger blending into one unbearable silence. The video of that moment would soon go viral across every true crime as a teenage girl's world collapsed in front of rolling cameras and unflinching justice. As deputies approached to handcuff her, Mackenzie barely looked up. Her hands shook as the metal cuffs clicked around her wrists. The echo of those cuffs filled the courtroom louder than any scream. Reporters described her face as ashen, drained, completely shattered. The camera zoomed in one last time, catching her whispering, "I didn't mean to," a statement lost beneath the roar of the crowd and the sobs of grieving mothers. Her final glance toward the gallery was filled with confusion, as if she still couldn't comprehend how her choices led to this. When she was finally escorted out, her footsteps echoed down the hallway, each one slower than the last. She turned her head briefly toward her mother, who could only whisper through tears, "I love you." But Mackenzie's face was blank now, empty, resigned. Outside, news anchors described it as one of the most emotional verdict reactions in Ohio courtroom history. For those who watched, the scene was unforgettable, a haunting portrait of a teenager realizing she had destroyed not only 2 lives, but her own. And when the camera faded to black, viewers were left with one lingering image: Mackenzie Shirilla's tear-streaked face, trembling in disbelief as the judge's final words echoed in her mind. This was not an accident. This was murder. Let's take a look at who Mackenzie Shirilla was before this incident, her early life and background, but before we begin, kindly take a second to hit subscribe and tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. To everyone who's liked, shared, or commented, your support helps us bring light to stories that deserve to be remembered. Welcome to the final hour. Mackenzie Shirilla grew up in the suburban community of Strongsville, Ohio, raised by her parents, Steve and Natalie Shirilla, in what on the surface appeared to be a comfortable home environment. As a teenager, she attended Strongsville High School, where she was described as a popular student, active on social media, fashion-forward, and seemingly living the ideal suburban teen life. From early on, Shirilla seemed to present a facade of confidence. Classmates said she had a large social media presence on TikTok, was into lifestyle posts and fashion, and enjoyed the attention that came with it. But underneath the filters and posts, sources suggest there were signs of deeper turbulence. According to victim family testimony and court documents, her relationship with her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, was long-standing, about 4 years, yet marked by repeated breakups, intense arguments, and controlling behavior. 3. According to the Russo family, in the 6 months leading up to the fatal crash, Mackenzie's behavior grew more possessive and threatening. For example, one witness testified that in July 2022, Russo called his mother in distress and said Mackenzie was screaming, "I'm going to wreck this car right now." That single statement foreshadowed what would later become the centerpiece of the investigation. Beyond the relationship, there were other red flags. Court filings reported that Shirilla had been recorded in surveillance video, driving the same route where the crash occurred days earlier, suggesting she may have scouted the crash site in advance. Investigators also found a pattern of reckless social media posts showing distracted or risky driving behavior. Her social media persona and lifestyle may also have contributed to underlying risk. She amassed followers, received clothing samples to review, and portrayed a glamorous image, while friends and family later said the private reality was one of escalating conflict, instability, and threats. While the public profile was polished, reports indicate the Shirilla family may have failed to intervene effectively when warning signs emerged. One Reddit commenter noted, "It was discovered that Mackenzie's parents never made her face a single negative consequence for anything." Investigators found that on the night of the crash, Shirilla and her passengers had been at parties, and there was evidence of drug possession, psilocybin mushrooms and a digital scale in her car, and possible use of marijuana. While these findings don't alone explain motive, they add context to the risk environment she was operating in. The background of Mackenzie Shirilla includes a blend of teenage popularity, social media influence, a volatile relationship, repeated threats and coercive behavior, and an environment where risky behaviors were present and possibly escalating. The tension between outward appearance and inner turmoil was evident. And on the other hand is Dominic Russo and DaVon Flanigan, two young men whose lives were tragically cut short in the July 31, 2022, crash in Strongsville, Ohio. Dominic Russo was born on September 24, 2001, in Strongsville, Ohio. He was the son of Christine and Frank Russo and had a close-knit family, including his siblings. Dominic was known for his entrepreneurial spirit and was actively involved in managing multiple businesses. His mother, Christine, described him as a hardworking young man who was deeply loved by his family and community. Dominic had been in a relationship with Mackenzie Shirilla for approximately 4 years. Despite their age difference, Dominic being 20 and Mackenzie 17, the couple's relationship was marked by both affection and turmoil. Family members reported that Dominic and Mackenzie had broken up and reunited several times. 6 months before the fatal crash, tensions in their relationship escalated. Christine Russo testified that Dominic had called her in distress, and a family friend witnessed Mackenzie screaming, "I'm going to wreck this car right now," during an argument. This incident foreshadowed the tragic events that would unfold. Dominic was well regarded in his community, not only for his business endeavors but also for his personal qualities. His untimely death left a significant void in the lives of those who knew him. His family and friends continue to honor his memory and legacy. DaVon Flanigan, 19. DaVon Flanigan was born on March 11, 2003 in Strongsville, Ohio. At the age of 8, he was adopted by Scott and Jamie Flanigan, who provided him with a loving and supportive home. DaVon had 2 younger sisters, Davine and Dahlia, with whom he shared a close bond. His adoptive parents spoke fondly of him, highlighting his caring nature and the joy he brought into their lives. DaVon was a talented athlete and had a passion for barbering. He played football during his time at Strongsville High School and was known for his skills and dedication on the field. Beyond sports, DaVon had dreams of becoming a barber and eventually opening his own barbershop. His family recalled how he would practice cutting hair on his teammates and coaches, often leaving the bathroom covered in hair. In his honor, the Flanigan family established the DaVon Flanigan Memorial Scholarship, aiming to support aspiring barbers in their educational pursuits. DaVon's untimely death deeply affected his family and the community. His adoptive parents, Scott and Jamie, have channeled their grief into positive action by supporting initiatives that reflect DaVon's passions and dreams. The scholarship fund stands as a testament to his aspirations and the impact he had on those around him. On July 31, 2022, at approximately 5:30 a.m., Mackenzie Shirilla, aged 17, intentionally drove her Toyota Camry into a brick wall at 100 Manamawara in Strongsville, Ohio, resulting in the deaths of her boyfriend, Dominic Russo, 20, and his friend, DaVon Flanigan, 19. Shirilla sustained severe injuries but survived the crash. Initially, authorities believed the incident was a tragic accident. However, upon further investigation, evidence suggested otherwise. Surveillance footage revealed Shirilla's car accelerating rapidly before the crash, with no signs of braking. Additionally, the vehicle's event data recorder, EDR, indicated that the accelerator was fully depressed at the time of impact. Body cam footage from Shirilla's arrest showed her appearing more concerned about her bracelet being damaged than the gravity of the situation. During the investigation, Shirilla claimed to have no memory of the crash, suggesting a possible medical event or blackout. However, prosecutors argued that the evidence pointed to a deliberate act. They presented her social media posts, including one where she stated, "I'm just one of those girls that can do a lot of drugs and not die," to illustrate her mindset leading up to the incident. Her defense team contended that there was insufficient evidence to prove intent, suggesting that the crash could have been a result of reckless driving rather than premeditated murder. The case was handled as a real bench trial, meaning it was decided by a judge rather than a jury. In August 2023, Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Judge Nancy Margaret Russo found Shirilla guilty on all 12 charges, including 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, 1 count of drug possession, 1 count of possessing criminal tools. Judge Russo described Shirilla's actions as controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful, stating, "This was not reckless driving, this was murder." On August 21, 2023, Shirilla was sentenced to either 2 concurrent 15-year to life prison terms, meaning she will be eligible for parole after serving 15 years. Her driver's license was also permanently revoked. During the sentencing, Shirilla expressed remorse, stating, "I hope one day you can see how I'd never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened." However, the families of the victims were less forgiving. Dominic Russo's mother, Christine Russo's, remarked, "Mackenzie showed no mercy on Dominic, nor did she on DaVon. Only God at this time can have mercy on her soul." The case of Mackenzie Shirilla highlights the complexities of determining intent in criminal cases. While the defense argued for a lack of evidence proving premeditation, the prosecution presented compelling data suggesting a deliberate act. The court's decision underscores the importance of thorough investigations and the need for clear evidence in ensuring justice. The courtroom had fallen silent as Mackenzie Shirilla was led away, her 15 to life sentence echoing in the hearts of those who had witnessed the tragic outcome of the case. The gavel's final thud signified more than the conclusion of a trial. It marked the irreversible impact of one young woman's actions on a community that would never be the same. The story of Dominic Russo, DaVon Flanigan, and Mackenzie Shirilla was far from over. As the echoes of the verdict reverberated through the legal system, the aftermath would unravel deeper, touching lives far beyond the confines of the courtroom. Strongsville, a tight-knit suburb on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio, a community was left grappling with a question that seemed impossible to answer. How did this happen? The town, once a place where high schoolers went to class, hung out at the local diner, and posted carefree moments on social media, was now forever marked by an unthinkable tragedy. Dominic Russo had been the young man everyone admired. His entrepreneurial spirit, paired with his generosity and bright future, made him a pillar in his community. DaVon Flanigan, a talented athlete with dreams of becoming a barber, was equally loved. The loss of these 2 young lives wasn't just a blow to their families, it was a blow to everyone who knew them. The town mourned together, yet there was a strange unease lingering in the air. People wondered how they could have missed the signs, the toxic relationship, the arguments, the threats. The case had captured the attention of local media, and soon the national spotlight was cast on Mackenzie Shirilla. As the investigation unfolded and details emerged, many in the community struggled to reconcile the popular teen who seemed to have it all with the image of someone capable of such an act. The concept of evil was not so simple in their minds. Was she a product of her environment, a victim of emotional instability, or was it something darker? These questions plagued the minds of those who had once believed in the potential of a teenager who had become one of the most controversial figures in their town's history. The media coverage of the case was overwhelming. True crime enthusiasts, legal experts, and armchair detectives scrutinized every piece of evidence, every social media post, and every word spoken during the trial. At first, many people were sympathetic. A troubled teenager facing the consequences of reckless decisions. That was the narrative people wanted to believe. But as the story of Mackenzie Shirilla and the events leading up to the crash came into sharper focus, the narrative began to shift. What was initially seen as a tragic accident soon became a story of deliberate murder. The public's perception of Shirilla fluctuated wildly, from sympathetic to hostile as the details emerged. Her social media posts, once seen as harmless teen fun, were now viewed through a darker lens. Her threats, her reckless driving habits, and her increasingly toxic relationship with Dominic Russo painted a chilling portrait of a teenager spiraling out of control. She had become the face of a disturbing trend in true crime stories. The seemingly perfect teenager whose life, and the lives of others, unraveled in a split second. Public opinion divided sharply. Some felt pity for Mackenzie, believing her actions were born of youthful impulsivity and emotional distress. Others, however, saw her as manipulative, someone who played the victim while hiding the true extent of her control over the situation. With the trial reaching its emotional climax, the verdict delivered a jarring finality that none could ignore. The judge's words were clear. This was no accident. This was murder. For the families of Dominic Russo and DaVon Flanigan, the aftermath was just the beginning of a long and painful journey. Christine Russo, Dominic's mother, described the loss of her son as a deep, endless ache. "I don't think people understand what it feels like to lose a child in this way," she said. DaVon Flanigan's family, too, was devastated. They had lost their son, their brother, to a moment of unforgivable recklessness. Both families found themselves in the wake of the verdict, consumed by a grief that was both public and private. Their pain wasn't just from the loss of their loved ones, it was also from the knowledge that the woman responsible for that loss would now face the full weight of justice. But it wasn't only about the trial. It was the years ahead, the anniversaries, the birthdays, the empty seats at family gatherings. How do you move forward when your world has been shattered? The families of the victims dedicated themselves to keeping Dominic's and DaVon's memories alive, establishing scholarships and initiatives in their honor, trying to create some form of positive legacy out of the horror that had changed everything. As the legal process continued, Mackenzie Shirilla's life entered an irreversible transformation. The once popular teen, adored by many, was now facing the full force of the justice system. While the defense tried to paint her as a broken young woman who acted out of emotional distress, the prosecution's case was clear. Shirilla had intentionally murdered her boyfriend and his friend. The black box data, the surveillance footage, and the witness testimonies painted a picture of deliberate, premeditated actions. In the months following her conviction, Shirilla's behavior seemed to shift. In the courtroom, she had appeared calm, even confident at first, a stark contrast to her later breakdown upon hearing her sentence. The woman who once believed she could escape her past was now confronted with the cold reality of her actions. Her remorse seemed genuine, though for many, it came too late. Christine Russo couldn't accept it. "She had no mercy for my son, and she has none for herself now," she said, expressing the anger and frustration that would haunt her for years to come. Currently, Mackenzie Shirilla remains incarcerated, serving her 15 to life sentence at a maximum security prison. She will be eligible for parole after 15 years, but the chance of her ever walking free is uncertain. Since her trial, there have been updates about her psychological condition and the toll prison life has taken on her. Psychological evaluations suggested that Shirilla might have been struggling with mental health issues, particularly with emotional instability during the period leading up to the crash. These evaluations have played a role in the conversation surrounding her parole eligibility, though her actions on the night of the crash remain undeniable. Despite the changes in her environment, Mackenzie Shirilla's future is now in the hands of the legal system. Whether she will be granted parole is something that will be determined much later. For now, she sits behind bars reflecting on a decision that cost her not only her freedom, but also the lives of 2 young men, their families, and the community she once called home. The journey from the crash to conviction has forever altered the course of Mackenzie Shirilla's life, but the ripple effects of her actions will be felt for decades. In the end, justice has been served, But the healing has just begun, for the victims, their families, and even for Shirilla herself. The story remains a chilling reminder of how a single, reckless decision can change everything. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. See you in the next one.